What's going on, YouTube? You're back with the Prez. We're in the kitchen today, and today I'm going to be bringing you another nutrition video. Today's video is going to be about teaching you guys about macronutrient timing. Remember, guys, in the previous video when I talked to you guys about diet hacks to help you stay lean year-round, I explained to you what bioenergetics is. Bioenergetics is the scientific term for how the body utilizes energy. And remember, energy comes from the macronutrients. You're only going to be able to pull energy from carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. Carbohydrates and fats being the primary sources that your body wants to utilize for energy. Protein is of at least importance. Not that your body can't use protein for energy, but like I said, it's of at least importance. Protein, the main role of protein in the body is for repairing and rebuilding muscles, cells, damage when you get a cut. All proteins and amino acids, those go to repair damage in the body. So if you just finished a resistance training session, you just finished a long run, whether it's cardio based, whatever was done, protein is going to go and replenish the muscles that were used in that form of exercise, right? So think of protein as a repairing nutrient, and think of carbs and fats as energy nutrients, right? Even though they all can provide energy for the body, and those are the only sources of energy that the body gets energy from, right, are protein, carbs, and fats, right? We can't get energy from the sun, like I explained before. So you're going to see me cooking up my meal right now, and I already have the stoves going. I'm actually going to lower the heat a little bit. I don't want to burn off the olive oil. And you guys know, 0-calorie olive oil spray. I'm going to be making some bison tenderloins now, some asparagus, and I got 100 grams of rice on the side. I also have some bone broth. Now, this is actually another off day for me. And what I want to talk to you guys about, how the body utilizes macronutrients and how you can go about setting up your day to optimize fat burning as well as anabolism, which would be building up of muscle, right? So you can't always, remember, in order to be in an actual fat burning state, or to be in a state where your body is burning fat in a state that it wants to get lean, remember, you always have to be in a calorie deficit. And like I mentioned in the previous video, whether you want to have a high fat diet or a high carbohydrate diet, as long as you're in a deficit, your body is going to be burning more energy than it takes in, and it's going to lead to weight loss, right? It's how you utilize those macronutrients when you're in a cut, whether it be high carbs or high fats on a given day, in terms of what your performance goals and your training goals are, right? So let's just season these bisons up real quick. I got 2 bison tenderloins. Just gonna put some salt, pepper. Actually, no pepper. I stopped using pepper because I know it's hard on the gut and can lead to GI issues. So I really just season all my stuff now with just salt. Asparagus is gonna get some salt and some garlic powder. So like I was saying, whether you're in a deficit, if you're in a calorie deficit and your goal is to shred out and lean out, your body will, no matter what, be burning fat, right? The rate at how much muscle it retains and how much muscle you hold on to in your cut depends on the type of training you're doing, the amount of cardio you're doing, as well as the foods that you're eating, right? Now, like I said, you can have a high fat diet and cut. You could also have a high carb diet and cut and get shredded. The differences are going to be in performance and overall aesthetic goals, right? From experience, I used to always go to a high fat diet to cut carbs, right? Thinking, you know, I'm just going to not need those carbs or whatever. Stupid thinking, right? Remember, like I said, I used to always resort to cutting carbs when I wanted to cut. All that did was lower my carbohydrate intake, which was giving me the decrease in calories, put me in a deficit. Yes, I was able to perform, but I always looked flat. I looked ripped, but my muscles never looked full. This past summer was the first time I did a full cut on a high carb diet. Got in its best shape, and I would say ever, right? I was lean, probably around that 10% mark, as well as a lot more full, and my performance was better because I increased the carbohydrates and lowered the fats on my training days to help me with performance, right? Remember, if you're doing very intense training, muscle building work, right? Muscle building style training, your body's primarily source of fuel that it's going to want to pull from is going to be glucose, which is going to come from carbohydrates, right? Carbohydrates will store in the muscles as glycogen. If you're doing intense work, working that 8 to 12 rep range, even up to that 20 rep range. Your body's main source is going to want to be glycogen. It's going to break down from muscles. In order to replenish those glycogen stores, your body's going to have to eat carbohydrates in order to replenish that. Remember, protein repairs the muscles. Carbohydrates store up and fill up the muscles. Fat doesn't do either of those. Fat gets stored back in the liver and fat cells, right? Remember, fat's an energy source that your body can pull from as well. But like I mentioned, if you eat more carbs, your body's going to store less fat, but it's also going to burn less fat because it's going to be burning off the glycogen or the carbohydrates you consume. If you eat more fat, you will store more fat, but you will also burn more fat as well. The higher fat diet you're on, the better at fat oxidation your body is. But again, you will also store more fat in general. So if you're in a calorie surplus, and FYI guys, 2 bison tenderloins, 7 minutes, cook them up. Asparagus, I'm going to put a cover on those. So how I cook the bison, 7 minutes total, sear it 1 minute each side, then the remaining 5 minutes I cook it on a medium flame and keep flipping it, right? So if you're in a calorie surplus, right, whether you're on a high fat or high carb diet, remember, if you're eating a lot of carbs in a surplus, your body will burn off those carbs, but it will store less fat. It will burn through carbohydrates a lot easier, but again, it's very easy to eat too many carbohydrates, right? If your body doesn't have any reason to utilize those carbs, if your muscle bellies are filled up with glycogen, if you already replenished them, then your body's going to start storing those carbs as fat. Same thing. If you're in a surplus and you're eating a lot of fat, your body's going to burn fat. But if you're eating too much fat and it has no reason to burn it, it's going to get stored a lot easier as fat, right? If you're eating higher carbs, that carbs have to be converted to fat, which are a little harder to do. Now, how can we utilize these macronutrients in order to help us stay lean, hit fat burning zones throughout the day, as well as be able to build muscle throughout the day, right? So I always was a fan of eating higher protein, higher fat meals in the morning, right? First meal of the day, reason being, you do not want to have a start of a blood sugar spike, right? You don't want to start the day with a sugary, starch-filled breakfast. What that's going to do is it's going to elevate blood sugar and it's going to lead to a crash. Remember, if you're not going to be training within an hour of waking up, there is no reason to consume carbohydrates in the morning. Your muscles are probably going to be a little topped off from the day before, and you can promote more fat oxidation by keeping the carbohydrates out of the first meal. That's why you'll hear people talk about fasted cardio. Waking up in the morning and going to do cardio on an empty stomach, they'll say it's going to burn more fat. The reason being is because you're going to be in a fat oxidating state. Your body has not consumed any carbohydrates or glucose throughout the whole night. You're waking up, you have no glucose in the body to burn through. Your body's going to be naturally being able to in a fat burning mode. So it's going to pull from stored fat. If you're in a calorie surplus, stored fat is going to be burned. If you're in a calorie deficit, stored fat is going to be burned. The second you start eating carbohydrates, that's when insulin is released from the pancreas, and that's when those sources of energy, meaning carbohydrates, are going to want to be the preferential fuel source that the body burns off. So if you start your day eating a high carbohydrate breakfast, and you're not going to utilize those carbohydrates within, let's say, an hour or 2 hours for an intense training session, yes, you're going to top your glycogen stores off, but then as the day goes on and you start eating more and more carbohydrates throughout the day, you're going to have a spillover effect where those carbs are not going to be utilized because you already topped off your glycogen stores and didn't have a reason to burn through that energy. So in the morning, if you could keep carbohydrates low, you're going to be in a state where your body's going to be more fat oxidizing, meaning your body's going to burn fat until you start ingesting carbohydrates. So me personally, I typically do throw carbohydrates in my breakfasts on most days, because typically I'm out training clients. I'm carrying weights back and forth to the park. I'm spotting people. I'm demonstrating exercises. I typically will still have higher protein and fats in the morning in general. And then my pre-workout meal, which you heard me talk about in the past, is going to be predominantly low in fats, right? Pre-workout, before an intense training session, carbohydrates are going to be the main source that your body's going to need and want for that energy throughout the training session. So if I was to, let's say, for instance, guys, I wake up every morning either 5 a.m., 6 a.m. If I was to train, let's say if I wake up at 6, if I was going to train at 7:30 or 8, my first breakfast would be predominantly protein and carbs and low fat, because I would want those carbs available for me to push through the workout. If I was not going to train, right, if I had no clients, the breakfast I had this morning, 3 whole eggs, bison ground up, I made a scramble, some mozzarella cheese, and that was it. 3 eggs, bison, mozzarella cheese, all together in an omelet style scramble, 0 carbs, high protein, high fat, and I'm still satiated. I had that meal over 4 hours ago. And that's the thing, protein and carbs are going to keep you more satiated. I'm sorry, protein and fat will keep you more satiated than having a carbohydrate breakfast. Because remember, carbohydrates will spike insulin. If you're not using those carbs, insulin's going to get released from the pancreas to shuttle that blood sugar, because when you eat carbs, it's going to break down into sugar in the body. And it's going to shuttle that blood sugar where it needs to go. If your muscles need to use it, it'll shuttle it back to the muscles. But if the muscles have no use for it, it's going to stay circulating until it gets burned off. And whatever doesn't get burned off is going to get converted into fat in the fat cells. Remember, guys, you have insulin, which is an anabolic hormone, which I talked about many times. That's why post-workout, you'll hear a lot of people talk about spiking their insulin post-workout. Because post-workout, your body is going to be in a very anabolic state, right? You broke down muscle from tearing it down from doing repetitions. You depleted glycogen, you depleted your energy stores from doing repetitions, right? Remember, glycogen is stored in the muscle as fuel, and amino acids get stored back in the muscles to repair the damaged muscles, right? So as you're breaking down the muscles, doing your resistance training, you're going to be breaking down amino acids, you're going to be breaking down glycogen. Post-workout, your body's going to be super sensitive to replenish these nutrients. It's going to want them. It's going to be craving glycogen and protein. Ideally, post-workout, if you have a shake, even if it's just whey protein, right? Whey protein alone will spike insulin. Everything that goes in that post-workout shake, which you heard me talk about, creatine, glutamine, whey protein, and sometimes I'll throw carb powder in if I'm not going to have a meal within an hour or two. Everything is going to be shuttled right to those working muscles, because as soon as you ingest that shake, you're going to get a spike in insulin. Insulin's going to be released from the pancreas, and insulin knows to take those nutrients and shuttle them where it needs to go. Like I said, if it has a place to go, it's going to get shuttled to the muscles. If insulin has nowhere to shuttle that blood glucose and those amino acids, it's going to shuttle it back to the fat cells, going to be converted to fat. But post-workout, when your muscles are starving for carbohydrates and protein, that insulin spike is going to shuttle all those nutrients into the muscles and have no spillover into fat. The opposite of insulin, guys, is glucagon. Glucagon is a hormone that is, again, released from the pancreas. So if you do not eat any carbohydrates, let's say I wake up in the morning at 6 a.m. and I'm going to train at 7:30 fasted. Now I'm doing an intense workout. My body's going to say, okay, I need to get some glycogen somehow. I need some energy, right? I need to push through this workout. Where's it going to get glycogen from? Yes, it's going to break down from the muscles from the night before, but that's going to run out fast, right? Because you're working out in a fasted state. Your glycogen stores are not going to be topped off. The next thing that's going to happen is your body's going to turn to the pancreas, and glucagon, which is a hormone, is going to start releasing insulin, or blood sugar for that matter. It's going to start releasing blood sugar from the pancreas into the blood. So remember, insulin is released from the pancreas to take the blood sugar out of the blood. Glucagon is going to release from the pancreas when there's no blood sugar in the blood and the body needs immediate energy. So they are opposite. And remember this, guys. When insulin is present, meaning you're in a spike in blood sugar in the blood, the body's fat-burning processes are turned off, right? Insulin turns off the body's fat-burning process. So if you're eating a lot of carbohydrates, like I said, you're going to burn off carbohydrates and not fat. If you're eating a high-fat diet and low-carbohydrate diet, what that means is you're going to get less spikes in insulin throughout the day, because there's going to be no reason for that insulin to be spiked because you're not giving it sugar throughout the day, which is going to lead to better blood sugar control, especially for people that are overweight or have maybe type 1 or type 2 diabetes problems. Controlling blood sugar is going to be utmost importance to you guys. You don't want to have high spikes in your insulin throughout the day, because again, that's what leads to these problems. That's what leads to metabolic dysfunction. So remember, if you're training fasted or if you're depleted, right? Let's just say you worked out for 2 hours, even though you had a carbohydrate meal and you're still training. Your body depleted all its glycogen from the muscles. Glucagon is going to be that hormone that releases sugar from the pancreas back into the bloodstream so your body can continue to push out effort. Even though it's going to be a slower process than eating carbohydrates on their own, glucagon will provide that sugar to the blood that your body will need. So remember, if glucagon is present, that means there's low insulin. That means you're still going to be in a more fat-burning state. If you're in an insulinogenic state, meaning you're eating a lot of carbs and insulin is being spiked, you're not going to be in a fat-burning state unless you're in a calorie deficit. Calorie deficit, you're always going to be burning more than you're intaking, resulting in fat loss, right? But if you're in a surplus, remember guys, you could be in a surplus of high carbs, you could be in a surplus of high fats. It all depends on the goals of you and the time of the day. So like I said, ideally, if you're trying to cut and you're not doing a lot of activity in the morning, keeping the carbohydrates almost absent in the morning from the first meal of the day is going to help you control blood sugar. It's going to keep you in a fat-burning state throughout the whole morning. And then the time when you're ready to ingest the carbohydrates, that's when you should be get ready to start doing your exercise, right? Your training. Whether you're going to go resistance training, whether you're going to go do cardio or running, that's when you want to ingest the carbohydrates so you have that fuel source for that activity, right? You don't want to start burning through muscle. You don't want to break down too much muscle and have an anabolic effect where you're catabolic now, right? So remember, guys, the less carbohydrates you eat throughout the day, the less spikes in blood sugar you're going to have. Better control of overall blood sugar throughout the body. Better for people that are overweight. Better for people that have problems like type 1 or type 2 diabetes, metabolic dysfunction, right? High carbohydrate diets are very advantageous to an athlete. They're very advantageous to a hard training. But again, if you're not training, like for instance, today I'm on an off day, I'm going to have higher fats, like I talked about in the previous video, than I would if I had a training day. Training day, your body's going to be primed to utilize those carbs. Remember, before the workout, carbs are going to give you the energy. You're going to break through and you're going to burn through all those carbs throughout the workout. Post-workout, you replenish the glycogen by, again, having protein and carbs. And then you can start tapering off throughout the day if you're not going to be active and just keep having protein and fat. Right, guys? I hope this gave you a little insight. Again, sorry for the rant. Meal should be done. We got 2 bison tenderloins. I'm only going to eat one of them now. 6 ounces each. 100 grams of white rice I'm going to heat up. I forgot to heat up my bone broth, which I'm going to do right now. And this is going to be the second meal of the day. First carbs I'm having for the day today, guys, is this white rice, 100 grams. I trained 2 clients this morning. I'm actually going to go do a little bit of an active recovery session right now. Reason being why I'm going to have these carbs. And again, throughout the day, guys, today my calories will stay pretty much around 3,200, 3,300 in my surplus, which I've been on. But again, the fats will be slightly higher today and the carbs will be slightly lower. On a training day, it's opposite. Go check out my Instagram stories, and you guys can see I post I keep pretty active on there, showing my calories, my macros for the day, and everything. So I hope this was not too long of a rant. If you have any questions or comments about what I'm talking about today, leave them in the comment section. I always get back to you guys. And like always, guys, time your nutrients and the macronutrients accordingly to your goals and your activity level throughout the day. It's going to help you stay lean. It'll help you burn fat throughout the day, as well as help you put on, like I said, you could be in a fat burning state and you could be in a muscle building state all throughout the day. Keep the carbs low in the morning if you're not training until later in the day, and you're going to be fat burning all day. If you're going to be training on them early in the morning, keep the carbs around the morning workout and then taper off the carbs throughout the day. Hope this helped you guys. Like I said, like the video, helps the algorithm out with YouTube. Share it with your friends, your family. If you have a question, leave it in the comment section. I'll always get back to you guys. Peace out. Barnaturals.